Hi everyone, welcome. We are going to get started here shortly. We're going to get started here within the next minute or so. So we're just going to wait for a few others to join. So in the meantime, grab a cup of coffee, do some stretches, and just hang tight. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Caroline Martinez, and I'm a digital marketing evangelist here at Birdeye. Now, before we get started, if at any point you have a question, please feel free to drop them in the question box located on the right and highlighted in the screen. We also have an extraordinary guest joining us today, which I'll introduce to you guys here shortly. But with that said, he is here to speak to us specifically on Google's business messages. So guys, please try to keep all questions related to the communication tool opposed to any other Google topics and functions. I also want to make one quick announcement for those who don't know. Birdeye has a variety of partnerships with Google, and as of November, Google changed the name Google My Business to Google Business Profile. And I bring this up for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's good for each of you guys to know the change, and two, for you guys to understand why it's essential to have a Google Business Profile established before enabling Google's business messages. So with that, let's just take a couple steps back and just start from the beginning. Did you know 70% of online experiences start with the search engine and 92% of their searches start on Google? Now, when consumers conduct that near me search, this is where your Google Business Profile is going to come into play. And what's great about a Google Business Profile is that it's a free tool visible to all consumers. And thanks to the power of SEO, if your Google Business Profile is set up correctly with the proper business name, address, hours, images, and categories, then that visibility is going to increase, helping you stand out amongst competitors. And if you guys like to learn more on how to optimize your SEO, then check out our on-demand webinar, Get More Customers with Your Google Business Profile. And if consumers do choose to look at your Google Business Profile and want to learn more about your service, then how are you as a business going to continue to outshine your competitors? Well, you can begin by providing consumers with the experience of communicating with your business right where they are, on Google, through Google's business messages. So with that, let's just quickly run through our agenda for today. First, we're going to walk through the basics and go over what is Google's business messages, or what I'll also be referring to as business messages. Next, we're going to dive deeper and discuss why and how you can begin using business messages strategically in your business model, followed by some best practices, and then we're just going to wrap it up with a short demo to show you how to use business messages within Birdeye before we open the floor for a Q&A. But with that, you guys, let's get this ball rolling, and let me introduce you to our very special guest from Google, who is an expert in Google's business messages. So everyone, it is my honor to welcome Stephen Brough. He is the head of channel partnership and alliances for Google's business communication. Hi, Stephen, how are you?
Good, hi, thank you. Excited to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity, and excited to be here with everyone that's joined today, and I'm ready to get into your questions on Google's business messages.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. You know, we are thrilled to have you and just absorb all the knowledge you have over this powerful tool. And I think a really good place for us to start is just, by having you explain to our audience, what is Google's business messages?
Yep, sure. With 70% of online experiences starting with a search engine, users turn to Google for I want to know, I want to go, I want to buy, I want to do moments. And to support that journey, we created Google's business messages so users in those key moments can message with the business they discover through Google Search and Maps. Why is this important? Besides discovery, Google Search and Maps drives engagement. In the US alone, Google Search and Maps drove 2 billion direct connections per month in 2020 via phone calls, requests for directions, bookings, and reviews. And like the helpful map and call buttons in search results, we now have a chat now button, thanks to Google's business messages, where users can start a relationship with a business like yours instantly. With customers expecting simplicity, speed, and convenience, business messages is the new modern way for businesses to stand out from their competitors. Google's business messages is not only for customer care. There's research that shows that customers who use chat in the discovery process are 3 times more likely to buy a product and worth 4.5 times more than visitors who don't.
Yeah, and I can imagine that, this gives the user an easy way to contact the business, especially when that purchase intent is high about questions or just making a purchase in general while juggling all other aspects of our life. But there are communication channels like phone, email, and other social platforms. So why is it essential for a business to adopt business messages as a communication channel within their business model?
Yeah, I'd give 3 reasons. I would say evolving user habit, Google's role in discovery and engagement, and the cost of other approaches. So if we start with user habits, people are chatting more, calling less. Look at your phones today. You'll notice that you're messaging more than calling on a daily basis. Messaging is where interaction is shifted. Number 2, Google's perfectly positioned to help. Look at the role that Google plays in business discovery and engagement. And like I mentioned before, 70% of online experiences start with the search engine, and we already have a helpful one-click call and map buttons in search results. And those help drive the 2 billion connections per month in the US alone in 2020, as I described. So for Google to add a messaging button to search results is us leaning into this trend and helping businesses do the same. And the third area I talk about is cost. Businesses spend approximately $1.3 trillion across $250 billion customer service calls each year. Roughly, the math is about $5 per call. So if you think about it, $5 is a lot of money. Calling may not be the ideal way for businesses and consumers to connect. It can be inconvenient for the user because they have to dedicate all their time on the call, and it's expensive for the business. So I would go back to the audience and say, why not give users the option to message your business?
Absolutely. And to add on to your first point of user behavior, from both an employee and consumer's perspective, it's really interesting to see how, those user behaviors are shifting, especially since the start of COVID back in 2020. And in my role, one thing that I love is just I get to talk to so many Birdeye customers and really hear firsthand, about how their consumers do not want to call or wait for an email response. Instead, a lot of them just want to ask a quick question, get a response, and then move on with their day. So I think with the shift of user behavior, it's becoming eye-opening to businesses that there is a need to adapt to keep up with those digital expectations and just really continue to provide a positive experience. So with that, from what have you seen, how has business messages changed industries to help them adapt to these shifts in consumer behaviors?
Yep. So we have brands using business messages today to sell, you won't believe this, refrigerators, motorcycles, jewelry, clothing. We've not only for selling things, we've seen business messages used for customer care journeys where somebody needs immediate help and making a call is inconvenient. Perhaps a transformative moment was COVID. It maybe sped up the need for people to message because in-person visits weren't possible. And if you remember, contact centers used to be pretty jammed up as well when calling in. Or if you're a small, medium business, you didn't have employees in the store. And so calling into the store might have been an option as well. But ultimately, customers, they want quick answers from businesses, big or small. And that's the catalyst for where we are today with Google's business messages. So like on this page, when I see stats indicating that users want to message a business and will favor businesses that offer messaging, I'm not surprised.
Mhm.
And imagine a future where you could search for a local running store, and instead of hunting through the website or making a call or driving there, you could just simply click a button from your search result to use business messages to ask them what shoes they recommend for beginners running in their first 5K. How useful is that for a user? I don't think there's a web page that has that information, but you could ask that through Google Business Messages.
Mhm. And I couldn't agree more with that, not having to go through some of those traditional communication pains, but instead having just a two-way conversation to fulfill a need or a service can really just overall enhance a consumer's experience. But with Google Business Messages opening the door to those intimate conversations between a business and a user, have you noticed any trends with business messages versus calls?
So a few trends. I would talk about call deflection, accelerated journeys, and automation. So call deflection. We're seeing that if you give users an option to make a phone call or have a messaging experience, that we're starting to see users prefer to chat or message a business. We have a case study. If you Google Business Messages, you can find information up on that website. We have a case study where where Google Business Messages was used to help a North Carolina courthouse during COVID reduce call volume by 37% by lawyers or people who had court cases. They would traditionally have to call in to get information. They offered a chat AI solution where you could just message the courthouse and ask, what is the form I need? When is this? Where is this? What is this? And the people are getting the information they needed 24/7 versus calling into a person and waiting on hold. Another thing I think besides call deflection that's interesting to point out is accelerating a purchase or care moment. So with business messages, you can take somebody who is in need and then is in a discovery phase and help them arrive at a purchase moment very quickly with just a few back and forth conversations. Typically, something like that would have taken valuable time to make a phone call or visit a website and hunt through pages or drive down to the business and talk to a person in person. But you can have that virtually through Google Business Messages, where you can still talk with a person or a conversational bot and get the information that you need. The third area I would talk about is automation. And automation, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on this, is with and becoming more mass market. So with like natural language processing and AI, we're starting to see this become a very great experience. So let's take an example. Businesses, contact centers, people answer the phone. They typically follow scripts, particularly in a contact center. And so you can take those same scripts and create a conversational AI assistant in like a low code or no code environment. And there's many tools out there to do that. Automation, once you've created that chat bot, that conversational AI assistant, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't have a bad day, it doesn't change jobs, and it can speak more than 30 different languages fluently. And it continually learns and improves from how people interact with it at a macro level. So not a micro like individual people, but like across all the people that it talks to. So you can automate most chat interactions, since many of them are frequently asked questions, and the human agent can then become a backup if requested by the user, which then helps with the cost aspects, supporting people outside of normal working hours, things like that. And we have already started to see companies specialize in automation achieve a 70 to 80% containment rate on questions, which means that only 20 or 30% of conversations are branching out to a human agent. So imagine like your cost savings of being able to have a chat AI solution in front of your human workers and allowing that solution to deal with any questions, frequently asked questions, things like that. And leave then your employees then for people who walk in the store, or the 20, 30% of questions that the chat AI solution can't answer.
Oh yeah, and if automation is involved, I am sold. The time automation saves is unbelievable. And Birdeye is already integrated with business messages, and very soon we're going to have an AI integration as well. So that is something that we're launching within this year, 2022. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, Birdeye has tools to support all types of businesses, all sizes of businesses, whether you're a one location or 1,000. And this brings me to my next question. And so, Stephen, I want to ask, can Google Business Messages be a valuable tool for those multi-location businesses?
Yep, absolutely. We currently have businesses with thousands of locations, and the way it's set up is through a concept called place IDs within our protocol. And that place ID then allows, say you're a pharmacy with hundreds of locations, you're able to know when the user is trying to message your location in Palo Alto, California versus your location that's in downtown San Francisco. And then you can either route that message to the actual store or into a contact center solution or a unified inbox solution, in such that at least the agent has context of where the user is trying to message, or the chat AI solution has that context. So yeah, absolutely, we support hundreds, if not thousands, of locations, no problem.
Awesome. Well, with that, I do want to switch directions a bit, and instead of asking you a question, Stephen, I'd love to ask our audience a question. And I'm just curious, how many of our listeners are currently using Google's business messages? So with that, I love if you guys can participate in this poll. Does your business use Google's business messages? Is it yes or no? And there's no right or wrong answers with this, guys. We just like to kind of learn a little bit more about how you guys are currently communicating with your customers, and just kind of helps us gauge, what's going on. All right, let's take a look at the results. All right, and let's see. Oh, whoops, sorry, share that, or I clicked that a little too soon. But the results were 82% said no and 18% said yes. So Stephen, with that, we did have those who did say yes, but for those who, aren't using business messages, what can you say to them, if they're interested in business messages, is there anything a business needs to do to activate the chat functionality for it to appear on their Google business profile?
Yeah, so like if you are a verified, if you have a verified Google business profile through companies like through Birdeye, you can turn on business messages with an easy one-click process. And if you don't have a verified Google business profile, companies like Birdeye can help you get started on that path, and then of course then enable it through Google's business messages through a one-click simple approach.
Exactly. And guys, the setup process is very simple. And I'll actually be able to show you guys this process a little later in our demo section of this webinar. But Stephen, while you were going over that activation part, I was able to just quickly glance at some of the questions coming in. And I did see a question from James over cost, and I think that's a really good question to address. And I can answer that from a Birdeye perspective. From Birdeye, there is no additional cost when using business messages through the inbox within our platform. But Stephen, is there any costs on the Google side associated with this chat functionality?
Nope, there are no additional fees from Google side. So whatever the fees that the core package from Birdeye is the cost that you pay.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Stephen, James, I hope that helps answer your question. And we are going to just move on, and I'll get to the rest of the questions towards the end. But Stephen, can you share some data regarding the success that businesses have when using business messages?
Yeah, so we've got if you Google Google's business messages or just Google business messages, you'll come to a landing site that we have, and in there it's called success stories, and in there you can click and see all these various success stories, and we have ones that go beyond just these four here. Like we have ones from Levi's, we have one from Estafada in Mexico, for example, and there's many of them. But these four here, I think, are like really good examples. You have Bajaj Auto, who is the third largest motorcycle manufacturer on the planet, second largest in Mexico. And they used it for supporting lead gen on the launch of a new motorcycle. And they had really outstanding results on using this new format within search results to drive lead conversions. And here at 14x is pretty outstanding. We have Videotron Canada, who has applied it for supporting customer support flows and is able to resolve most of the questions within the chat channel with very high CSAT. We have Popeyes, which is a retail supplement chain in Canada. And with automation, they were able to put together a solution to kind of assist customers with questions and purchases and so forth of supplements. And not only in English, they were able to do it also in French, so it's dual language. And then Tango, I have a slide that comes up on this one, but this is the one where the call deflection case study, which if we want to jump to the next slide, goes into a little bit more detail. But this is the courthouse where they were inundated on calls coming in on scheduling and forms and all these things during COVID. And they weren't also able to man enough people to deal with this problem as well, the influx of calls. And so they, working with a company called Tango, stood up a conversational AI assistant and with NLP capabilities, and they were able to reduce their call volume by nearly 40%, 2 million interactions, and it was something of a real success in that particular courthouse in Wake County that now they've expanded to the other courthouse systems in that state. So that's when given the option, users will float on to this new medium if it's designed well and it helps them get their immediate answer in a way that is convenient for them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And is business messages limited to a specific industry, or is there a use case for all types?
No, it's all industries. So you see here's a few examples for like retail or financial services or automotive. And so, these are things here. We even support healthcare. So we are HIPAA compliant. So if you have HPII information flows, then yeah, we can definitely support that as well. So yeah, all industries.
Love it. Well, we've talked about how useful business messages can be for a business and how easy it is to set up. But are there any tips you can share to provide our listeners, how they can use business messages to its fullest potential?
Yeah, I think I would talk about welcome messages, automated welcome messages. So what is that? So the user discovers your business in Google search. They see the messaging button and they click it. And the automated welcome message is your opportunity to greet that user that could be a potential customer and help them start the conversation. So it's like a conversation starter in a way. And so you don't want to like have it where they click your button and you don't even send anything to them and they have to now type what they want. You want to introduce yourself. You might want to let them know if you're outside of normal working hours, so it might be a delay in responding. And you may want to give them a set of quick suggested replies that might be your most frequently asked questions that you get, because users actually enjoy tapping more than texting. So if you can give them, welcome, this is so-and-so business, we're here to help. Are you contacting us about A, B, C, or D? It's a much more enjoyable user experience to get going. And again, if you're outside of normal working hours, you also want to let the user know so that if they message you and there's a delay, they know why there's a delay. So I would say it's your best opportunity to make a good first impression, which making a good first impression will definitely help with either, high sentiment from your users or for your customers, or maybe even, higher chance of a purchase moment. So.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And guys, the quicker you can provide the consumer with an answer, the quicker you can close that deal. As I've mentioned in previous webinars, and I slightly touched on here, consumers are developing that right here, right now mentality. So the quicker a consumer can get a response, the less likely they are to move on to that next business. And you really want the consumer to stop with you and move forward with the transaction. Stephen, you have been collaborating with Birdeye for some time, but let's say a business has Birdeye and is integrated with business messages. What edge does the business have compared to a business that does not have Birdeye?
Yeah, so I think a few things that I would highlight are, if you have a Google business profile, it's an easy one-click automated onboarding process to get Google business messages. If you don't have Google business messages, or you don't have a verified Google business profile, formerly known as Google My Business, Birdeye can also help you with that. Birdeye has it such that you could set up your welcome messages like I described just on the prior question. And I would also highlight in-channel engagement through the Birdeye platform. So I would say that these three things I talk about are all core within the platform. Let's talk a little bit more about re-engagement. Imagine the running store example I gave earlier works with Birdeye. And as a consumer, I do a search about running stores near me, and I reach out to Google. I reach out through Google Business Messages with a question about a specific shoe to the running store. That running store responds directly through the Birdeye inbox, and after multiple messages, I decide to actually buy a shoe through them. And through those messages, I get even pushed a third-party payment link, and where I can just make the purchase through the chat session all together. And my shoes are shipped to the house. Super easy. I just got new shoes, and a quick back and forth conversation, all kind of orchestrated through the Birdeye inbox system. So what you can do next through the platform is re-engage with me 30 days following my last message to you. And that's a policy we have where we allow re-engagement within Google Business Messages. That shoe store can re-engage with me and basically check in to see if I had any questions about the shoe. Does it fit okay? Let me know that there's a return policy the first 7 days, perhaps. They could share updates related to topics that are related to my purchase. Could be, oh, do you need compression socks for your running shoes? They could also remind me as a customer that they have a running club to prepare for that 5K that I was asking about earlier. And they could let me know that I can use this messaging channel if I have any other questions I need to do that I need to get a hold of them. So you can use business messages as follow-ups directly through the Birdeye platform with customers like myself in scenarios like that.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you bring up re-engagement, because if you think about it, if the consumer begins an initial conversation through business messages, and let's say the company re-engages with them through email, then that business could be missing out on an opportunity, because not everyone is going to be an active user of email, but we do know if they're using the app, they're probably an active user of business messages. And just plus from a business standpoint, it's much easier to re-engage with the consumer on Birdeye and just track that communication history instead of having to keep up with all the different communication channels. But we are coming to the end of our questions, and I do have one last one for you, Stephen. And I think this is a question that I'm sure some of our listeners are wondering as well, but how secure is business messages?
Yep, I would say very secure. Let's talk about HIPAA, encryption, and OAuth. HIPAA first. So Google's business messages is HIPAA compliant for patient to doctor use cases involving PHI, protected health information. So if you're a dentist office, doctor office, you can use it for that kind of use case from a regulatory standpoint. I would talk about encryption. So messages sent from the user's handset to Google servers and from Google servers to Birdeye are completely encrypted end to end in that flow. And we're not able to see the information that are in those messages. And I would talk about OAuth. OAuth is a cryptographic protocol that's used in the industry to prove somebody is who they are in a super easy way. Google's business messages supports OAuth 2.0, and that allows businesses like yourselves to verify your users and then provide them personalized information and conversations in a secure way. So we also support OAuth, and we see maybe financial institutions using that a lot as a way for users to kind of log in and then be able to converse a little bit more about generic topics.
Perfect. And I know all businesses and consumers want to feel secure. So even from the Birdeye standpoint, no matter where your messages are coming from within that index, no matter where it's Google or any other social platform, Birdeye is also completely encrypted and secure. But this wraps up this part of the webinar. So Stephen, thank you so much. And before we open the floor for Q&A, I am going to show you guys a quick demo of how you can use business messages with Birdeye. So with that, let me switch my screen real quick. I do want to say that this is a demo dashboard, so all the customer information you're going to see here is entirely made up. And to set the stage, I'm going to continue on with the running shoe example and kind of use my sister also as an example. She is a big runner and her birthday's coming up. So I know I want to get her a pair of running shoes for her birthday. And so what I'm going to do is conduct that near me search, similar to what we talked about earlier in this webinar. So I just did a Nike store near me search and a few listings pulled up. And I'm going to take a look at this first listing. They have a 4.3 star rating with tons of reviews, and they're only a couple miles away from where I live. So this looks promising, and I'm going to click on this listing. Now, I do have the option to call the store, but I don't necessarily want to do that because her birthday falls around the holiday season and Valentine's. I don't want to be on hold as they help other customers or check for inventory in stock. So instead, I'm going to send them a message. And I also do have the option to go to the store, but I don't want to do that as well because I don't want to make a trip if they don't have what I'm looking for. So like I said, I'm going to click on messages. And here you're going to see 2 point of views. Off to the right-hand side is the business point of view from the Birdeye platform, specifically inbox. And then off to the left-hand point of view is the customer point of view through the business messaging app. So as a customer, what I'm going to do is just click on or type in my message on the app, and I'm going to ask if they have the Vomero 14s in size 6. Now my message is going to go into the inbox where the business can respond, and it does look like that they have that running shoe in stock. So I'm just going to say, great, but how late are you guys open till? Because I want to make sure I get to that store on time before they close. So the business can respond with their hours, and it looks like they're open till 9:30. So all I'm just going to do is ask them to kindly put the shoe on hold, and I'll be there within the next hour or so. So the business can follow up with a quick response. It looks like they can put the shoe on hold for me, and then they're just giving me some instructions, bring your cell phone and just, hey, here's a reminder, we're at this location. So here I was able to have just a really quick two-way conversation. I didn't have to hop on the phone and stay on hold. I also didn't have to run to the store to turn right back around to find out they don't have what I'm looking for. Instead, all I have to do is go to the store, check out, and then move on with my next errand. So this is just a really quick way of how you guys can communicate with your customers through Google Messages or Google Business Messages and Birdeye. But I did also talk about within the webinar that I'm going to show you guys how to do this setup. So if you guys exit out of the inbox and you go to the settings tab and then click on integration, this is where you're going to set up your Google business profile and then also the business messages. So what you're going to do is click on connect with Google, and then you're going to click on the email address that is associated with your profile page. So on this case, I'm going to click on my email. And then you can read through this. This just tells you, what Birdeye has access to when it comes to your Google account. If everything looks good, you can click allow. And then you're just going to want to pick the locations that you like to integrate within Birdeye. So in this case, I'm okay with having all locations integrated. So I'm going to click select all and then click next. So the first part of the setup is complete. Next, we're moving on to the messaging part. So here you're going to click on the pencil icon. And all you have to do is just quickly drop in your brand logo, make sure your brand name is correct, type in a quick welcome message and then an outside of business hours message. And when all of that has been uploaded and everything looks good, you can just click apply and then save. And then you're going to get one more verification message. Just make sure, double check everything looks good. And if it does, you can click save. And then voila. Once you see that green checkpoint, you guys are good to go. That means your business profile is integrated with Birdeye, and you guys can begin messaging your customers and responding back to them through Birdeye when they send you guys business messages. So yeah, so that's about the demo. It was really quick. It's super easy, guys, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. But with that, I do want to leave us some time to open the floor for Q&A. And Stephen, I'm love for you to help participate in this. So I'm going to take a quick look at this. Some of the messages we have. And let's see. Sorry, guys, you guys have a lot, so I got to look through something. Okay. So let's see. So Stephen, here's a question. Is Google Business Messages new, and when did it become available?
We announced it mid last year. It's something that we've been working on for some time, non-publicly, but we announced it publicly last year, and it's something that we're continuing to evolve within the Google's various surfaces that are available with search.
Awesome. And here's another question, will Google Business Messages be available in Canada, or is it already available?
It's available in all countries, including Canada.
Perfect. So guys, it's available in Canada.
Yep. And I was going to say the Popeyes example I gave earlier, the supplement store chain is in Canada, and they actually used it with French Canadian plus also English. So.
Awesome. And here's a question. This one's more for Birdeye. So within the Birdeye platform, who is in charge to manage the messages? Is it the store or a customer care department? So guys, that is completely up to you. If you want to dedicate someone specifically to, manage those messages, if you want to put it in your support section, if you want to put it in your marketing section, your sales section, it's completely up to you guys. You can add as many users into this. You can add how many people you want to have specific access to view specific things. So that's 100% up to you guys. So I hope that helps answer your question, Alex. Let's see. Okay, let's see. How would this be beneficial for an independent real estate agent, and would it be cost effective? Do you have any use cases for that, Stephen? I can talk about cost effective, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, from I think a real estate standpoint, you have large real estate chains. They have multiple offices in the city. They could set themselves up like in a way like how Nike, you gave that Nike example. And then from there, the leads that come in could be inbound leads through an inside sales and then route to the real estate agents. If you are a real estate agent, if you have a physical address that you can prove, then I believe you could have a Google Business profile, and then where there you would be able to instrument that through Birdeye then for your outbound campaigns. So, I think that's something you could look at, but yeah, it depends on like how big of a real estate team you are, might be some things to consider, but yeah, if you're discoverable in search, that's the first step, is being able to be discovered, and then from there we can add the buttons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for the cost part, guys, this is because I've seen a few other questions regarding that as well. Business Messages within Birdeye is completely free. This comes with all Birdeye packages. So no matter what package you have, whether it's the core all the way to like customizing a package, this is in all packages. So there's no extra cost to respond to, these messages at all. So if, it's not an add-on, it's nothing, no additional cost. The only thing you're paying for is the package, the Birdeye package, and then everything else comes with it. So, all the messaging aspects of, whether it's Google Business Messages, messaging people through Instagram, texting, email, that all is no additional cost. So I hope that helps answer the questions over cost. Let's see. So here's a good question, Stephen. How do you set up Google Messages without having a platform such as Birdeye?
So without a platform, you can, through Google My Business, set up an individual account or with your Google Business profile. Doing that, you lack a few things on the ability on the engagement aspects, perhaps the automation, and so forth. So the question is are you a single proprietor, one person entity? Maybe that fits better. But if you're looking to really have like a scaled outreach program, you're looking to have a mature local search engine optimization presence as well, these sort of things, then I would say to look at enterprise software solutions like Birdeye to help you kind of move into a more mature online presence and engagement capabilities. And Google's Business Messages is available in that manner. So, something that you can use as well.
Mhm. And for all of you guys who are asking if we're going to be sharing a recording, I do want to let you guys know that we are sharing a recording of this after the webinar. So you guys should all receive an email a little bit later on today for that. So no worries, it's going to be where you guys can replay this. And then I also have a message or a question, and it's, is Birdeye messaging the same as Google messaging? So to address that, it's different. We have a Birdeye inbox, what I showed you. All messages, from all different communication channels can sync into there. Now, if you do have like the Birdeye chatbot, that's completely separate from Google Messages, and that's also a separate product outside of Inbox. That is the one feature that is an add-on that will be an additional cost. So any messages coming from your website, if you have a chatbot, is going to be like those messages from your website coming into the inbox are completely different than having like a Google message that are coming from your Google business profile. So I hope that helps answer your question, Betty. If you have any other questions following that, please feel free to drop them in. Let's see, guys, I love all the questions you guys are asking. Let's see. Trying to make sure I don't click on the same question. Okay, how does Google remember who bought and who didn't buy the shoes, for example? So with the re-engagement.
So you as the store know if the user bought the shoes. And we within Google will know if there was a last user initiated message within the last 30 days. So when you trigger that outbound message, say a week or two later, to say, how are things going with the shoes? Our systems will say, yep, you're within that rolling 30-day period, and we'll allow that message to go back to the user. If it's outside of the 30-day period, it's a policy position we have where at that point we don't allow unless the user re-engages back with you. But during that rolling 30-day period, we allow that, and it's basically we don't per se know if that purchase actually happened or not, but you do, and that's then like your ability to follow up based on your own information.
Mm-hmm. And to add to that, guys, within the Birdeye inbox, no matter what your interaction is with the prospect or customer, all of that's going to be saved within those messages. So you can track, their communication history, and like not even just communication history, but if you guys send out NPS scores, you can see, okay, this customer also gave us a score of 10, and they're, we have payments. So if you make payments, you can see all their payment history within inbox and have figure out, okay, they bought, this customer bought shoes, and then you can go back and look at the previous message and be like, well, maybe we should send them a promo because they bought shoes about 30 days ago. So all of that customer history is going to be trackable within the inbox as well. So you guys will be able to look and see the full journey of their communication. But here's another question for you, Stephen. Does the customer or consumer need to have a specific app on their phone to use business messages?
If you're just using it yourself, you can use Google Business Messages through what used to be called the Google My Business app. The things that it will be through that app. Things that will be very difficult then are automation, being able to, as you just heard, be able to kind of understand what purchases, NPS score, all these kind of useful reviews, all these things to be able to then work on the re-engagement aspects. But that's there, and that's usually used for very small sole proprietorships. But if you're a multi-location business, you've got many employees, then you're looking for a very mature online presence and engagement solution, then I would say you probably want to look at offerings from companies like Birdeye on what that costs and what that entails, and of course what you get for that. But there are benefits of kind of stepping up the online presence and engagement capabilities. Google's business messages will work on that per app or through the Birdeye core platform. But the Birdeye platform gives you that extra capabilities that you wouldn't have through just the standalone app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have a question for you. this is in regards to multi-location businesses, and the question is, if I have a multi-location business, do I need to map each of the Google Business Profile locations to get messages?
Yes, that allows us to identify which locations the leads and messages are coming from. So that allows, like, say you get our pharmacy with verified business profiles in like 100 different locations. That allows us then, when the user comes in on the Palo Alto location or the downtown San Francisco location or the Boulder, Colorado location, to know that place ID for that location, and then allow you as a business to know, like, do I route that locally for somebody to answer that locally? Sitting in an office, using in this instance, the Birdeye software, or we're going to have this come into like a centralized location, but be aware of what location the user is actually trying to get a hold of. So you have like a concept of, oh, it's Denver, they're messaging us because there's a snowstorm right now in Denver, versus Palo Alto where it never snows. So these are things that that are in the solution and there for a reason, and so that's why you have to map each one.
Okay, and I have another question for you. Can you set up times when the service is available? Do you have to have Google Business Messages open at all times? So is there like a setting where you can turn it off and turn it on?
I would say is to look at your welcome messages and use that as a way to have a welcome message for during business hours and outside of business hours, so the user knows when you're available and when you're not. Going even a step further would be automation, so that you don't have to worry about when you're there and when you're not. And companies like Birdeye and others can help with automation. There are a lot of low code, no code, super simple solutions, like uploading a frequently asked question document, like in a Word file or a Google Docs file, like that simple. But I would say, like, physically turning on or off, I would say you'd look at more of the automated welcome message functionality would be a better approach.
Okay. And does the message go directly to the cell phone associated with the business profile? So if someone leaves you a message through Google Business, do you receive like any sort of notification? And I can answer that from a Birdeye side. If you have we do have a Birdeye app. So if you do have your Google Business Messages integrated all set up and integrated within Birdeye Inbox, if you have the app and you have your notifications turned on, then you will get notified that a message was, you received a message, and so you can quickly open the app and respond. Now, Stephen, if someone didn't have Birdeye, is there a way for people to get a notification that they received a message through their cell phone?
There might be a note. This is within more Google My Business, which is outside of my area of intimate knowledge, but I would assume they probably have a notification feature within the Google My Business, or maybe it's called a business profile app today. I do want to clarify that Google Business Messages does not use SMS. So the concept of phone number is kind of not really a concept. So, like, for example, in the example Birdeye, it's an inbox, not a phone number where the messages come and go out of. If you were like a large Fortune 500 airline, you might use like a real big contact center software platform. It's going to come in and out of that like inbox for the airline, not like the 1-800 number for the airline, to use that example. So it's not an SMS solution. It's a web chat solution, but it can tie into, in the case of Birdeye, it can tie into like your desktop inbox solution or the mobile phone app solution. If it's mobile phone, you get a notification. If you're just doing the standalone Google My Business, formerly Google My Business app, then of course there's probably a notification feature on there, let you know, but it wouldn't send you a text to let you know you have a message.
Okay. And I do want to let Wade know that we saw your message, and I will make sure to pass along the information and message. I have someone who Stephen would like, if you could follow up with him via email.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll make sure Stephen gets that information, Wade. We also have another question from Kelly. She's asking if you can please review again for sole proprietors, what do you recommend in terms of Google messaging to be able to reach and interact with clients best with potential to scale?
Yeah, I mean, there's I would say probably look at sole proprietorship. If you have a physical location, you can create a verified Google business profile, and from there you could set up Google business messages. What that will lack though is the whole online presence optimization capabilities. That will lack the marketing, engagement, reviews, all the NPS scores, all the things that you heard earlier today. But if you're just looking for something super simple, that's a solution. I do like at the beginning of the webinar, my area is not the Google Business Profile area of Google, formerly known as Google My Business. So my advice would be is to go to that website, and you can see kind of how to sign up for that as just a sole proprietorship if that's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. I hope that helps answer your question, Kelly. Let's see. So where do I find the Google Messages on the business profile? Is there a certain icon for Google Messages? Yes, so Larry, if you, and Stephen, you could probably help on the back end of what this looks like, but I know from, if you guys saw in my demo, there's that chat icon. So visible for consumers, if I was looking up a Google business profile and someone had their business messages enabled, then I'll see the options like the icon to call, and then I'll also see an icon to chat in, and I can start messaging the business that way. But Stephen, is there any specific icon on the back end that our listeners should be aware of when they're trying to enable?
Yeah, again, on Google My Business, that app, that's an area outside of my area. I usually work with people who are not sole proprietorships that work with large software platforms software platforms for small, medium businesses like Birdeye, for example, who then have like a different system and a unified inbox and the ability to do more than one channel. I would say from the user perspective, if I can, it just magically appears for the user. And on map related searches, it works on iPhone as well. So whether you have an iPhone and Android, things that you can experiment with today, search for, there are a lot of Levi stores that have this enabled. There are a lot of Gap stores that have this enabled, and there are even Walmart stores that have this enabled. So depending on where you're located and the store that's closest to you, you might be able to all of a sudden, as a user, magically see the chat now button and experience it as a user yourselves to see how it works.
Mm-hmm. And I did see a question come in over automation outside of welcome message. So Sherry, to address that, right now with Birdeye, we just have the option to do a welcome message and then the outside business hours. Now we do understand that automation is huge and so important. So like I mentioned, we are in the works of building out an AI integration. So that is to come within this year and is on our roadmap. So that's coming in 2022 where we will be able to have a full automation. So I hope that helps answer that. Let's see. Let me see. I think I'm getting through most of the questions. If I'm missing any, guys, I apologize. Trying to hit them all. I got that one, I think. Okay, so here's Stephen mentioned the Popeye example used French as well as English. Does Birdeye support multi-locations as well? We do support multi-locations. And I know we have Rachika. Rachika is on the line. She is our director of content, and she could probably help with this too. But I know we do have multi-locations for French and English. Last I heard, if you want to do French, you have to type that in more manual, opposed to us creating a platform that already has that. But Rachika, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, that's right. This is how it'll be managed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's if you want to have another language, it's a little bit more manual. You'll have to type in, your responses, your chat responses in another language, and you'd set up your campaigns as within the language you would want. But when we have the platform, it's going to be more in English. If you want to change the language, you would have to do that in with yourself. So I hope that helps answer, Christina.
I was gonna also mention on phones, there's a concept of like a language setting. And so we're also able to convey in the API what the language setting is of the person who's messaging. So for example, if it's a chat bot that you're using, the chat bot can know the preferred language of the user as that question comes in, besides maybe the question. And so you're able to just immediately use the language of the preferred language of the user. And most chat AI solutions, they don't, so they're a lot of them are in between like probably 10 and 30 different languages, depending on which one you choose. Like if you need to do kind of multilingual, that's something that is supported in Google Business Messages.
And here's another question for you, Stephen. Can you run ads to the business messages and within business messages?
We are currently public on organic search and maps, and then actively looking at other ways in which this can be used on other Google surfaces. Google's got, of course, more search surfaces than organic search and maps, and that's something that we're looking at. These are different systems and platforms within Google, so it's not something you can light up immediately day zero, but it's something that we're seeing a lot of businesses looking towards this format as a way for lead generation, like in the Bajaj example that I gave earlier with the selling motorcycles. And so, you know, we're paying attention to that trend as well. So that's all I can say about that right now, but it's something that we're looking at.
Awesome. Let me see. I think we're coming to the ends of all of them. Trying to make sure I hit them all. Yeah. I think we're hitting them all. Okay, I think we got them all. And guys, if I for whatever reason, if I accidentally missed y'all's, we are going to follow up, make sure all questions are addressed and everything's okay. We're going to make sure all of that. So if I didn't get to it, you will get an answer. But Stephen, thank you so much for being our guest and just talking to us about Google Business Messages. We really appreciate all your insight. Do you have any last statements, any comments you want to make before we completely wrap up the webinar?
I just thank you all for attending. It's always great to speak with a 100+ person webinar with a lot of questions at the end. So hopefully this was of value to you. And if you got questions about Google Business Messages afterwards, we do have that website that you can Google, and you can see information about success stories, information from a business perspective, information from a user perspective, and you also could go and click in there and see how how it works from like a developer standpoint. And then of course you know how to get a hold of the team over here at Birdeye if you have questions on wanting to use their software platform to implement it. So thank you for today. A pleasure to see you all.
Yeah, well, thank you guys, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you have questions, you can just email events@birdeye.com. And I hope you guys have a good, what I like to call Friday Eve. It is almost Friday. So have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you.